Filthy animals like you belong in cages, not courthouses. Those venomous words would haunt Officer Martinez for the rest of his life. It was a crisp morning when Judge Kesha Williams approached the courthouse in civilian clothes, her briefcase packed with case files. She was a respected federal judge, but to Officer Martinez, she was just another target. Sneering, he blocked her path. "Another ghetto rat trying to sneak in," he spat, his hand cracking across her face. The force sent her head snapping sideways, her briefcase tumbling, legal documents scattering across the courthouse steps like confetti. Before she could react, Martinez grabbed her throat, slamming her against the stone wall. "Filthy animals like you belong in cages, not courthouses," he growled, twisting her arms and snapping handcuffs around her wrists. Other officers gathered, laughing, some recording the scene on their phones. Kesha's jaw throbbed, but her eyes locked onto the bronze nameplate above the entrance. The Honorable Judge K. Williams presiding. 20 feet from her own courtroom, she was being brutalized by the system she served. Have you ever seen karma strike this swiftly? Inside the courthouse, Martinez straightened his uniform, ready to spin his story. He'd done this dance before. Control the narrative, play the hero. The system, he believed, always sided with cops over criminals, especially ones who looked like her. "Your Honor," he began, addressing temporary Judge Harrison, a pale man in his 60s. "I was conducting routine security when I encountered a suspicious individual attempting to breach courthouse security." He gestured toward Kesha, now handcuffed at the defendant's table, a bruise blooming on her cheek. She was erratic, refusing to provide ID, and became agitated when asked to comply. Judge Harrison nodded, engaged. Martinez continued, his lies polished. She was dressed inappropriately, carrying what appeared to be stolen legal documents. When I investigated, she became verbally aggressive, using profanity and making threats. Officers Rodriguez and Thompson, in the gallery, exchanged knowing glances. They'd heard Martinez's script before, different faces, same story. "She claimed to be someone important," Martinez sneered. "They always do. Lawyers, judges, senators, anything to avoid accountability." Harrison leaned forward. "Did she resist arrest?" "Absolutely," Martinez replied, his hand trembling slightly. "She was combative, forcing me to use minimal force to ensure safety." He pulled out his phone, showing a conveniently edited video starting mid-confrontation. "My body cam malfunctioned this morning, but this footage shows her aggression." "How convenient," Kesha murmured, her first words. Her voice was calm, her eyes blazing. "What was that?" Harrison asked. "Nothing, Your Honor," she replied, though her controlled fury was palpable. Martinez pressed on. "This is a classic case of someone playing the victim card after being caught. She was trespassing, carrying suspicious documents, and claimed discrimination to deflect from her crimes." The prosecutor, Sandra Walsh, nodded sympathetically. "Officer, in your 15 years, have you seen similar situations?" "Unfortunately, yes," Martinez said, his voice rising with indignation. "Certain people think they're above the law, using accusations of racism to avoid accountability. It's insulting to real victims." Several in the gallery, mostly white courthouse staff, nodded, the narrative familiar. Martinez continued. "She claimed she was going to work but had no employment verification or legitimate reason to be here." Officer Thompson added, "She was carrying confidential legal documents, possibly involved in identity theft or fraud." Martinez seized the momentum. No legitimate citizen would have access to such materials. She was likely planning to impersonate court personnel. The irony was suffocating, but Martinez was oblivious. This is just another case of someone gaming the system, distracting with cries of racism. Prosecutor Walsh chimed in. "The state recommends charges of trespassing, resisting arrest, and assault on an officer. Her civil rights claims are a desperate defense." Martinez allowed a small smile. Another win. Another reminder that the system worked as intended. People knew their place, or they learned it the hard way. "I showed restraint," he added. "She was unstable, possibly on drugs. A lesser officer might have used more force." Kesha sat still, her hands folded despite the handcuffs, a slight smile on her lips. She was taking mental notes, cataloging every lie. Martinez had no idea he was testifying before the one person who could unravel his career. "Anything else, officer?" Harrison asked. "Just that incidents like this show why we need strong law enforcement," Martinez said. "Some only understand authority backed by force. She learned actions have consequences." The prosecutor rested her case. Martinez caught Kesha's eye and winked, savoring his victory. It would be his last. "The defendant may present her statement," Harrison announced, expecting a formality before sentencing. Kesha rose, her dignity unshaken despite the bruise and disheveled clothes. "Thank you, Your Honor," she said, her voice clear and authoritative. "I'd like to address several inaccuracies in Officer Martinez's testimony." Harrison blinked, surprised by her tone. "First," Kesha continued, "he claimed I was trespassing. I was on a public sidewalk, a constitutional right under Hague versus Committee for Industrial Organization." The stenographer paused. The prosecutor frowned. This wasn't the expected outburst. "Martinez claimed I carried suspicious documents, suggesting fraud," Kesha said, gesturing to her scattered papers. "Those are authentic legal materials, case files, memoranda, correspondence, all within my professional capacity." "Professional capacity," Harrison interrupted. "What's your profession, miss?" "Williams." "Dr. Williams," Kesha replied, a faint smile appearing. "We'll get to that, Your Honor." Martinez felt a chill. Something was wrong. "Martinez claimed I was verbally aggressive," Kesha continued. "I invoke my Fifth Amendment right regarding statements made during the incident, but any I made were in response to unprovoked assault." The law clerk in the back row sat up, recognition dawning. "Regarding his body cam malfunction," Kesha said, her voice sharp, "this courthouse has extensive security coverage, and county systems back up body cam footage. I request a preservation order for all surveillance from 8:45 to 9:15 a.m., including cameras, body cam backups, and officer phone recordings." Prosecutor Walsh objected. "The defendant can't make evidentiary demands without counsel." Kesha's gaze made Walsh step back. "Your Honor, pro se defendants have Sixth Amendment rights to present evidence, and Brady v. Maryland requires preserving exculpatory evidence." The silence was deafening. Harrison cleared his throat. "You seem familiar with legal procedure. Do you have training?" "Some experience," Kesha replied, her eyes gleaming. She gestured to her documents. "My court calendar shows I was scheduled to appear here at 9 a.m. for legitimate business. Martinez refused to check my ID before assaulting me." Bailiff Henderson, a 12-year veteran, went still, recognition dawning. Kesha reached into her pocket, moving slowly. "I have my judicial parking pass, building access card, and official ID." Henderson stood, pale. "Your Honor," Kesha said, "there's been a misunderstanding about who Martinez assaulted." She held up her credential wallet, the gold judicial seal gleaming. "I suggest a recess to verify identifications." "Court will recess for 15 minutes, Harrison croaked, his gavel falling. Martinez's world began to crumble. During the recess, the courthouse buzzed. In a holding room, Kesha sat calmly as Henderson fumbled with his keys. "Judge Williams," he whispered, horrified. "I didn't recognize you. I'm so sorry." "It's all right, Henderson," Kesha said. "Bring me my judicial robes, the black ones with gold trim, and my engraved gavel." Henderson nodded and hurried out. Kesha closed her eyes, centering herself. She'd been a respected jurist for 23 years, yet in minutes she'd become a victim, a defendant. Now, it was time to reclaim her power. Her phone buzzed with messages from her clerk, Janet, about a delayed hearing. Kesha replied, "Clear my afternoon. Something important came up." She called Chief Judge Margaret Cart. "Kesha, are you okay?" Carter asked. "I've been better," Kesha said. "Martinez assaulted me, called me a filthy animal, and lied under oath. I need all surveillance footage from this morning preserved, and every case he's testified in reviewed." "Done," Carter said. "But you can't handle this case yourself, conflict of interest." "I know," Kesha replied. "In 10 minutes I'll walk into that courtroom in my robes. Martinez will learn who he attacked." Henderson returned with her robes and gavel, engraved with "Justice is blind, but she sees all." Kesha donned the robes, their weight restoring her authority. "Announce me properly," she told Henderson. "Yes, Your Honor." "How?" "The Honorable Judge Kesha Williams presiding." "All rise," Henderson's voice boomed. "Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Kesha Williams presiding." The words struck like lightning. Martinez froze, Harrison paled, and Walsh's jaw dropped. Kesha entered in her robes, gold trim gleaming, her ceremonial gavel in hand. She took her place behind her bench, and sat with deliberate calm. Her eyes swept the stunned courtroom. "Officer Martinez," she said, her voice heavy with authority, "remain standing." Martinez looked ill, trembling. "You testified under oath. Do you recall saying, 'These people always claim to be judges to avoid accountability'?" Martinez nodded weakly. "And that I was an entitled activist looking for a payday?" The silence was suffocating. Kesha held up a tablet. "This is security footage from the courthouse entrance." The video played, showing Martinez's unprovoked assault, his slap, his chokehold, his words, "Filthy animals like you belong in cages, not courthouses." Gasps filled the room. "Any verbal aggression from me?" Kesha asked. "Any threats?" Martinez was silent. She swiped to another video, his body cam, backed up to the county's cloud. "Look at this uppity, thinking she can walk into my courthouse," Martinez's voice snarled. "Time to teach another lesson." Kesha turned to Rodriguez and Thompson. "You testified Martinez acted professionally. Care to revise that?" Both officers edged toward the exit. "This," Kesha said, showing Martinez's body cam footage, "is felony assault against a federal judge." Martinez gripped the table to stay upright. "And this," she played Thompson's body cam audio, "shows your colleagues laughing, speculating if I was somebody important." She set down the tablet. "You claimed I had no employment verification." "Well, I do." She gestured to her nameplate, the judicial seal, her portrait in the lobby. "I've been presiding judge here for 23 years. Every case you've testified in, every warrant you've requested has been under my authority." Martinez whispered, "I didn't know." "You didn't know because you didn't look," Kesha said. "You saw a black woman and assumed she was powerless, but I've been investigating your department for 6 months with the FBI's Civil Rights Division. You've been under surveillance, and today you gave us perfect evidence." She lifted her gavel. "Court will recess while I consider charges." Martinez collapsed into his chair as the gavel fell. 20 minutes later, the courtroom was packed. Lawyers, clerks, reporters, citizens drawn by the historic reversal. Martinez sat, ashen, beside a nervous public defender, Michael Carter. Kesha returned, her robes a symbol of unyielding justice. "Officer Martinez," she began, "before sentencing, I want everyone to know who you assaulted." She stepped forward. "I'm Judge Kesha Williams, appointed in 2001, confirmed unanimously. I graduated magna cum laude from Harvard Law, served 8 years as a federal prosecutor in the Civil Rights Division, and have presided over 15,000 cases in 23 years. Martinez's attorney scribbled furiously. "I've prosecuted 47 cases against officers like you," Kesha said, "but never have I seen such a perfect example of what's wrong with policing." She opened a file. "In your 15 years, you've had 47 complaints, 3 per year. Mrs. Rosa Delgado, a grandmother, said you slammed her face into her car. Jamal Washington, a teen, claimed you planted drugs. Dr. Michael Johnson was arrested for living in a wrong neighborhood, all deemed unsubstantiated." She displayed a chart. "You've made 1,245 arrests, 87% people of color, despite your patrol area's diverse demographics. You used force in 63% of those arrests versus 12% for white suspects. 432 cases, 40%, were dismissed due to constitutional violations." The courtroom was silent. "Your actions cost taxpayers $2.3 million in settlements," Kesha continued. "You swore to uphold the Constitution, but violated it repeatedly." She read his oath aloud, emphasizing faithfully and impartially. "This isn't about one rogue officer," she said. "It's a system that protected you, dismissed complaints, and ignored victims. But today, you assaulted someone with the power to expose it all." Martinez sobbed. "I'm sorry." Your apology is 15 years too late, Kesha replied. You're only sorry because you got caught. She lifted her gavel. I find you guilty of first-degree assault, assault on a judicial officer, deprivation of civil rights and perjury. You're sentenced to 25 years in federal prison without parole. The gavel fell. I'm ordering a federal investigation into every case you've touched. Your victims will have justice. The courtroom erupted in applause. 6 months later, Martinez was in prison, his badge and pension gone. The investigation uncovered corruption, leading to 12 officers fired, 4 supervisors charged, and the department under federal oversight. New protocols mandated body cameras and automatic case reviews. The 432 tainted cases were reopened, freeing dozens and compensating hundreds. The courthouse was renamed the Justice Williams Federal Courthouse. A plaque marking the day justice prevailed. Judge Williams became a national symbol, speaking at law schools about accountability. Community oversight boards were established, and police training was overhauled with her input. The young law clerk, inspired, joined the ACLU. Rodriguez and Thompson faced charges for conspiracy. The verdict video went viral, viewed 50 million times, resonating with those who'd faced similar injustices. Martinez sits in his cell, reflecting on the day he thought he could bully a powerless woman. He was wrong. Justice doesn't just wear a blindfold, it wears robes, carries a gavel, and when the moment is right, strikes back. Never underestimate standing up to bullies. Share this story if you believe in justice for all, like if you want more stories of courage over corruption. Subscribe, your story could be next.